What up, YouTube? I'm Shotgun Shogun. Welcome to another episode of the Infinite Library podcast. That's right, guys. This is like two in a row every other week, which is what I used to do. It's crazy. I know. I'm sure that after this one, I probably won't do another one for 3 or 4 months, and then I'll come back and be like, hey, guys, man, that's crazy. We should be doing these podcasts more often, and then I'll do 2 more, and then I'll completely forget about it. But I'm joined beside the PvP master himself, Mace1370, and the PVE master, TristenWulf. That's right. You'll know that anytime that I ever talk about anything PVE, I'm like, man, you know what? You know where you should go with that question that you just asked me about expos, because I don't even do my own expos. That's right. You should go look up TristenWulf on the YouTubes. That's a huge one. And then when it comes to PvP, Mace has always been a cornerstone of the PvP community. Mace, how are you doing today?
I'm good. That was a very nice intro. Thank you.
I do what I can, man. Yeah, actually, I've been talking to Mace a little bit here lately because he's been running the tournament, which is pretty fun. I'm actually super excited about the remainder of the tournament that I'm in, because my boy City, we're in his training arc right now, so we're gonna take at least the Emperor one as far as we can go. Tristan. I don't think a lot of people have ever heard your voice on here. They've heard your voice on your YouTube channel. The up-and-coming, like I said, PvE master, which I think is actually something when it comes to the YouTube community that was very lacking for a long time, right? Everybody can put out a random Wyvern guide that we've seen a bazillion of. Everybody, puts out their PvP guides. Hey, guys, look, I literally just pulled this unit 37 seconds ago. Here's my godlike build that'll carry you to legend, but here's my showcase in Masters Arena. Tristan, how are you doing, man?
Hey, doing great, Shogun. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah, no problem.
Keep your eyes open for my Wyvern guide you've seen a million times coming out here soon.
Yeah, except that it's a Wyvern guide that is all 5 Wyvern teams that you've seen a billion times, all in one video. So you don't have to go and decide whether or not one Wyvern guide, you'll be like, but I saw this one Wyvern guide, but then this other guy has this other one Wyvern guide. Yeah, Tristan's going to put all 5 of those Wyvern teams into one video, so it's your one-stop shop for PvE content. But we got some topics today. We're going to range from PvP to PvE, and we'll also be touching on just the 4 years that Epic 7 has been running in general. But we just wrapped up Epic 7 World Cup. It was interesting this year because I do feel like their value was through the roof. And I think that moving forward, that is kind of going to be what we can expect from it. Mace, what were your overall opinions on the production value, taking out the PvP aspect of it with the players? Overall, how did you feel about Epic 7 World Cup this time around as a fellow tournament runner as well?
I think they made a lot of progress compared to the previous one, right? This is only the second time they've done it.
Yep.
But obviously, like, they hugely stepped up the production value. I like that they also had commentators from the community, like Kana and Jenna, who were talking about the matches.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was a nice touch. If I remember correctly, last time they just had the same commenters, right? And they weren't really like Twitch streamers or anything. Was it new in Mashu? I don't remember.
No, I think, wasn't it the last time? I believe it was new in Panshui. At least I know that the 2 of them. Yeah, I think so. I think that the last time it was new in Panshui, because I believe that that was like their first attempt at it. I know that like really early on, new in Panshui was the CCI. Okay, maybe it was just new in Mashu. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But, I like that they pulled in Twitch streamers to commentate on it. I think that the little cutaways and, the CGI tournament stage and all that was a really nice touch. It really kind of increased the ambiance and, kind of reinforced that this was a big deal.
Yeah, I think too, like, I remember when we still had the KR streams, which I still to this day think is wild that they no longer have the KR streams, but like they put a lot of production value into the KR streams, just in general, and they had that studio where it was like the augmented reality, because I remember the first time that we got Ancient Inheritance, right? Mr. Navi was out there like in his safari outfit, just wandering around Ancient Inheritance, and I'd like to actually see TristenWulf do that one day, just like in augmented reality out there, be like, yo, hey, welcome, I'm TristenWulf, the Ancient Inheritance master, out here in my augmented reality area. But it's nice that they're using that. I think that just in general, from like a tournament standpoint, the production value is a huge aspect of it. And Mace, one day maybe they'll let me and you have a crack at their augmented reality studio so that we can run a tournament. Smilegate, get me and Mace some augmented reality studios.
That would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tristan, they did that.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say something else that I liked was they were trying to incorporate a bit of statistics into the match breakdowns at the end. They showed you like
Yep.
what units did more damage. I also think it was really nice how they showed you the cooldowns of all the units on the side of the screen. That was a huge improvement.
Yeah,
Made
that
it
was
a lot
really
more
big.
watchable.
And I know as a tournament commentator, right? One thing that I'm doing constantly when I'm commentating it is looking at the left hand side. I'm looking at like, when is this cooldown up? Did they just use this? Like, how many turns? Because I mean, as a player, right, you're looking at that, so it's something that's very, very important, and it shows kind of like the thought process, right? Because you're always looking at that. You're like, you have to know the timing of when do they get this S2 back up, how many turns do I have, is Amelia's abilities down right now, because that's a lot of the decision making when it comes
also
into
starting
that.
CR, like for matches where you have speed races, they had it on the side there, and that's something it's been pointed out, and I think it's like a valid thing to try and do better, for the tournament matches that I've recorded, which is to show like the starting CR breakdown for certain matches. But that can be really hard when you're commentating on a match, because when an RTA match starts, if one of the players rips their skill 3 right away, like you actually can't open the CR bar, even if you're like spam clicking it.
Right.
So I think you have to like basically hit that button before they hit theirs.
Yeah,
so the fact that they had it there on the side was really nice.
Right, and we all know that the people who are speed demons and go first, they cannot actually slow down and let somebody open up the left hand side. If they get first turn, they're just gone. It's done. They just rip it. They're just too fast for the commentators. But Tristan, what was your take on the E7 World Cup?
I think the sidebar is a feature they need to add to mock rooms. That was such a valuable piece of information, both for players or for viewers and for commentators. There was no guesswork about, is this skill ready yet? Is this did this person get RNG'd on speed, or did they really legitimately beat them on speed? It was so much good information to have there, and content creator driven tournaments, smaller tournaments run by streamers, to have that sidebar in the mock battle section, something that you can open up and make part of the stream. I think that would be great. I think the smaller tournaments drive a lot of attention towards RTA in general.
I think another improvement that they could make on the statistical breakdown of the matches would be to change some of the information they give us and make it more meaningful. So like 2 examples off the top of my head. One, they had this little like match win prediction bar at the top.
Oh, I hated that thing.
Every time there was like a pick, you would see the percentage swing. And I think it was just aggregating, like the number of players who've won with like this hero, right? And then it just averages it out. But it's totally meaningless, right? It doesn't tell you anything that's actually useful.
Right.
And then another thing was the duration of match was given in minutes and seconds, which is also pretty meaningless, because it's like, we're sitting here watching it. I knew if that was a 20-minute match, right? It would be a lot more interesting to see like how many rounds were there or how many turns. because when players take time to think, that can prolong the time, but it doesn't necessarily like prolong the events that happen in the match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. When it comes to that mini bar, I don't remember, did they have that during, I don't think they had that. No, they did have that during the CCI because they were testing it out. And
they did.
yeah, I think that they had it during the CCI because I believe they were testing it out, and it, like, I kept looking at it and I'm like, I was trying to figure it out like after the fact when I was like watching back through a lot of the VODs and stuff like that, and I'm like, how is this even picking up, like, the percentage? Because I think you were right. I think that they probably had loaded in the back end like a whole bunch of info that was like, oh well, in this situation when person A first picked C. Lilius, this was their win rate, right? And I do think that, like, that in general, I think what would have been really cool is if they, and it would have been a lot better for maybe like viewer interaction, right, where it was actually, because I thought for a while it was the viewers, it was like the people in chat were voting on who was gonna win, right? Because, like, let's be real, like, usually whenever I have votes during like my tournaments, yeah, people love that,
yeah, I mean, that'd be way better than what they did, right?
Because yeah, instead of it just being kind of like a nonsense, like, oh well, this person statistically because of X, Y, and Z has a better chance to win or whatever. Yeah, having voting I think would have been pretty cool, even if it didn't matter for anything, right?
Well, it easily could. Like, you see how they do it with Twitch channels and like their point system. Like, you could bet points on matches, and they could allow you to purchase prizes with the points at the end of the event. Like,
that's
they could
true.
Really drive a lot of engagement that way.
Yeah, and considering the fact that, like, they gave away stuff just for watching, right? Mm-hmm. They could have easily, you're right, just had like channel points for the tournaments, and like at the end of each one you put in for a giveaway, and then at the end of it they wipe all the points, start over fresh for the next one, so that way. But I wonder if, since you're giving away like actual stuff, I wonder if there's like any sort of legality with like it being like kind of technically gambling, but you're not really, because you're not putting any of your own stuff in, right? It's just free stuff.
Legal wise, I'm not sure how it works, but
yeah,
I assume it would.
Pretty sure that if the product being wagered has no material value, it's not considered gambling.
Yeah.
Any more than playing Monopoly is considered gambling.
Yeah.
I think you'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should try that out. I feel like, like realistically, right, Smilegate's gonna get backlash on no matter what they do anyways, at the end of the day, which, it kind of sucks sometimes, because I feel like a lot of times when Smilegate tries to do fun stuff like that, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Making me stay up till 3 a.m. watching RTA. I hate RTA. I play this game just for arena. Man, I can't believe you're forcing me to do this. Epic 2.7. That
was one of the things that I kind of was a little bit annoyed with sometimes, was the fact that people would complain. And I understand there's different time zones, right? Like, it's not very good for like Euro bros and stuff like that to have to get up and watch this, especially with like the codes and their failed the quiz thing. The quiz thing was just really bad and very poorly done in my opinion. But I think that it's tough to do, right, with Twitch drops and stuff along those lines, and giving out free things, because, well, they're a Korean company, and chances are we're going to have to abide by like the Korean time zones, because, well, that's where the bulk of the people are, and the bulk of the production quality, or the bulk of the production team. So it is what it is. But I think overall that Epic 7 World Cup was handled pretty well. I thought one of the interesting things were some of the off-meta picks, right? And I think that, if anything, Epic 7 World Cup kind of reinforced that the meta, and I put that in air quotes, that people complain about all the time, with like the only like 7 characters picked, isn't really indicative of the actual like meta near the top. Mace, your take on that?
Yeah, and a lot of it is constantly shifting, and is greatly influenced by public figures, either streamers or things like this tournament. Like people saw a lot of like Alencia and Shu picks in the World Cup for some of the matches, and then all of a sudden they're all over the ladder. Like even though they hadn't been changed necessarily like that day. So I think the meta in the top like couple hundred players is drastically different than further down the line. But even given that, it's different in a tournament setting because people are playing very conservatively, whereas on the ladder they're going to be willing to play a lot more aggressive. There goes my dog. Because they don't want things to they don't want to risk, right, playing an aggressive team and getting RNG'd or something like that.
Right, yeah, and that was one of the things that I had to explain a lot during the tournament, right? People would be like, oh, well, and you even saw this from the commentators talking about Cleave, and players talking about Cleave, and I had to explain to people, I'm like, look, man, I'm like, Cleave isn't good in a tournament setting, because when you can't just play 1,000 matches, and if you get cleaved you just top right and go again, like if you're out in the tournament, you're out. So you're right, a lot of people are going to be playing a lot more conservative. They're going to be playing standard. Even on ladder, people will cleave until like the very end of the season, and then even cleavers will slow down and play more standard.
Something that I don't think a lot of people appreciate about the meta is a lot of what defines the meta has to do with the limited amount of resources people have. People only have so many like uber fast debuffer sets of gear, and they only have so many super fast DPS sets of gear or super high ER sets of gear. And so if there's a particular hero that's really popular, and you need to build an answer to that, you might have it. But given infinite sets of gear, right, with all sorts of gear quality, there are almost potential uses for literally every hero in the game. So someone like Green Charles, he's not going to be a good pick 99.9% of the time, but that 1 out of 1,000 games where he is a good 5th pick, if you actually have a good set of gear on him, he's like a valid unit to take. So it's, the meta is more just kind of a response for where people have most of their gear at the moment, and also like hero balance as well.
Right. Yeah, and I actually thought it was funny because literally earlier today I saw a handful of pictures in Discord of people picking Green Charles yet again as like an answer to somebody picking a shoe and then losing.
Right.
And it's because, well, yeah, not everybody has Phantom, Jinte, Yunduan, Elf Mage levels of gear. So I do think that sometimes one of the issues that you'll run into is that you'll have these people that'll watch insert whatever streamer, and they'll see oh, well, this streamer, and this is something I've ran into with us getting the pick ticket, right, is that people are like, yo, get Ran. If you don't have Hua Young, you get Ran. Just get Ran. He's the most godlike unit that's ever existed. Just get Ran. And in my opinion, I always tell people, like, look, if you have to ask if Ran is good, if you have to ask if you should pick Ran, you don't have gear for Ran. When you have gear for Ran, you're not asking people, hey, is this unit good, right? And yeah. I think that is a little bit of an issue that we have in the community when it comes to what the meta is that people are just watching these these streamers, these YouTubers, because, well, I mean, I guess that's really all you have available, right? So it is a little bit rough from a player standpoint of where they get that information. What about you, Tristan? What was your take? Oh, Mace?
No, go ahead, Tristan.
I can't say it enough. If you're new enough that you have no idea who to pick with that ticket, you pick a PVE unit that is designed to get you gear and progress you in the game. You ignore every single Emperor and Legend tier streamer out there and their favorite units, and you get yourself a foundation unit to grow your account. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with a 220 speed Ran, wondering why you can't do anything with it.
So what you're saying is pick Tamarin.
Pick Asaria, pick Tamarin. Those are very good ones.
That's
Asaria
one thing I've been telling a lot of.
The game can do.
Yeah, not only that, but Asaria really clutch for Ancient Inheritance. Yeah, I've been telling people that if they don't know what to pick and they're new, just pick Tamarin. You will use Tamarin in almost every PVE situation that's not Wyvern, and Wyvern can be done with 3 stars. I mean, heck, Banshee is getting a lot easier with all the things that they're putting in for Banshee, but like Tamarin will carry you through so much stuff. And if you just tunnel vision PvP units as a new player, you're gonna get just super frustrated, and you're gonna quit. Like I see so many people in chat that are just like, yo, I can't make it to the Challenger RTA. I've been playing this game for a couple of months, and I'm like, bro, dude, my guy. Epic 7 is a marathon, not a race, unless you're trying to throw like Lucari levels of money around, in which case that's a whole different story. But yeah, no.
I gotta know, Mason, maybe you can answer this for me. That Charles, that Phantom picked, that suddenly made everybody rush to the Charles banner and start dropping bookmarks. That Charles never countered, right? It was all Elbrus procs. Was that Charles a counter Charles, or was it like a destruction set Charles with 350 crit damage, and he was just thinking, hey, nobody ever touches Charles because Charles counters, and I don't want him to counter, so you don't build him on a counter set. You just build him pure damage and let Elbrus do the work, and eventually he gets a turn anyway because nobody touches him until the end.
I don't know. I haven't seen Phantom's gear, so I can't say for sure, but that is not an uncommon.
That's the destruction Charles.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I don't want to like out anything. I don't know if it's like supposed to be a secret, but I know there are certain players on the ladder that pick units like that, and they're very slow, and they're on destruction set, right? Like Garmin and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And people just assume that they're counter because they're like base speed, right? And then they don't want to touch them.
Yeah, I mean, I personally run counter on my Green Armin, but that's just because typically if I'm drafting Green Armin, it's going into like an Edict cleave, right? Like you have no choice. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't with like my Green Armin. But like that was one of the things that I've talked. There was like a debate for a while on like how you built Apocalypse Ravi, right? Everybody would be like, oh, well, a Ravi needs to be on counter set. And I'm like, well, what if you just don't hit her? Like if you just don't hit her until you can deal with her, and then just, deal with her later, like that just kind of, it is what it is. Like there's a lot of units that you just don't, you're right, you just don't touch them. And
people make a lot of empirical absolute statements about this game, and it's just not really, the game just doesn't really work that way. Like there are a lot of viable styles. Like there are people that, are successful only farming Banshee, even though most people farm Wyvern.
Mace.
I would never condone such behavior, but
I'm sorry, but the person on Facebook who told me that there is literally only one way to gear every unit, whichever unit it is I'm talking about, are you telling me that they may be wrong?
Well, they're on the internet, right? So I guess they can't be wrong.
They are a Facebook Epic 7 player. I mean, they are the unequivocal be all end all of the information on the internet. No, I always tell people, I'm like, look, man, there's a ton of different ways to build like every unit, and I think that's one of my favorite things about Epic 7 is that you don't have to. It's not necessarily a rock paper scissor game. I mean, let's be real. APOC Ravi is rocks and paper and scissors most of the time. She's kind of like her own thing, right? But like there isn't a be all end all for every build, like you were saying. And I mean, take Call for example, right? He's not a fast gamer, but Call's super good in a bunch of different ways. But yeah,
It
Yeah.
introduces a lot of uncertainty into the game, and it's part of the reason why even the best players only have, between 60 and 70% win rate.
Hmm.
If you build, like for example, if you build your Angel of Light Angelica with 100 effectiveness, and you run into somebody who has exactly 100 ER, well, you just got full value off of your build, right? But if you
Yep.
run into the guy who builds 200 ER on their stuff, you just got destroyed. And you have no idea when you're picking AOL unless you're familiar with the opponent on the other side,
Right.
which one of those options is going to be.
Right, indeed, and I think that it was kind of interesting just to see, like in the World Cup, like some of the players too that were like really flexible, and some of the players that you could tell weren't really super like familiar with tournament play, right? And they were very inflexible. I think that it was neat to watch how the players like responded, and anybody who says that like Epic 7 is nothing but an RNG game, like and there's no skill, like if you watch some of those drafts, like there's some people that were just straight draft kingdom, and there were other times that they just kind of fell apart midway through the draft, and they were heavily punished for it. Not to take out, that there is some RNG sometimes, but actually it didn't feel like there were too many matches where it was so overly RNG that it was one of those things where like this person just won all of their matches because of it.
Yeah, and I think part of that, it can be hard to know when RNG is happening, like with speed RNG, for example. Like I think there were several matches where people lost to speed RNG, but we can't say for sure.
Right.
But overall, I agree. I think in terms of your chance to win a match, like the draft is the most important, right? And if you won the draft, like you were going to win the match the majority of the time.
Yeah. Somebody says, how could Smilegate make the tourneys faster, not weeks long? That's a good question. Yeah, I think not having like 15 minutes between like every match would probably be good. That is like one of my gripes too, that it takes like an entire month for these tournaments, whereas like usually my tournaments are done in a weekend. Mace, I know your tournament's taking a little bit of time, but that's because we're doing offline matches when everybody is kind of available, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like they could make them a little bit faster. I feel like each match, like in the set of 5, just takes so long. There's so much extra talking and like in between everything, and they only do like a couple of matches each time. Like
Yeah.
I do feel like they could definitely speed things up instead of like and especially on like a weekend, right? Like it's a Saturday, like you can go for more than like a couple of hours. Like I know I've watched other esports tournaments, and it's like a day-long affair. Swap out casters if you need to, like just kind of make it a day thing, right? I understand that that's a lot of a work on people, but it's not anything that I don't know. Like for me, I'm always like, well, I do it, so it's really not that bad. So
I think they want to
yeah.
drag it out for promotional purposes too. Like they're they're getting like
That's
attention
true.
because of this, right? So they kind of want to get their value.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably like the biggest thing is that they do want that extra time. But I feel like even then, like we had like literally weeks, like there were like a couple of weeks between the seeding for the main matches and then like the actual start of the main matches, which just was like, why why
They
are you
could have
taking
gotten
a
rid of
couple
the
weeks?
losers bracket, I guess, if they wanted to shave anything off, and
Yeah.
maybe like use some of that time to increase the number of games of some of the matches along the way, just to kind of reduce RNG. Um,
Yeah, that's another thing, is like the best of 5 does reduce a little bit of that RNG factor, right? Because I know at one point, like, somebody wanted, like, as suggested in my tournaments, they're like, well, why don't you just do the first round as a best of one? And I'm like, nah, you can't do best of one in a tournament. Like, there's no way. Like, best of three is like the bare minimum, because like one match can just be RNG, RNG kingdom, and you just get absolutely destroyed. At least like best of three, chances are you're not going to get 2 RNG twice in a row. Sometimes you will.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it mitigates it a lot.
right.
But the losers bracket didn't really seem to add very much, in my opinion. Like the person who made it all the way through the winners bracket, they didn't really get anything for doing that.
Right.
So yeah, I think if they wanted to make it shorter, that would be one way to do it.
Yeah.
People who aren't familiar with a double elimination style of tournament, I mean, people who've been in the tournament circle all their life are very familiar with it, but the average layperson has trouble wrapping their brains around how it works sometimes. I think they would benefit more from a single elim tournament with 16 people in it than a double elim with 8 people in it.
Yeah.
Just math it out so it's the same number of matches. They could also keep the hype going by doing midweek pre-recorded broadcasts of the matches that weren't shown, the matches that happened behind the scenes.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that, and that was one of my big things, like really like early on. I was like, well, you did all these matches offline, right? And, why don't you just utilize those? Why don't you utilize those in between? Yeah, like in the middle of the week, or, something along those lines. And they could have easily had like some additional commentators, like, an analyst desk, right? I think that like the other thing too is like between like the matches they had like 10-minute break, like where we just literally listen to like the same music over and over again, which I mean is good for the commentators and like the production team and stuff like that, but they could have showed like highlights. They could have showed like the other matches. They could have had like an analyst desk like kind of breaking things down. There's definitely things that they can do in the future, but I think in general that this time around was definitely a step up from last year's, and even a step up from like the content creator invitational as well. I think that as long as they continue to up their production quality and go from there, I think that that's fine. But yeah, to Tristan's point, I think a single elimination would be a lot better, especially if you have a best of 5. If you lose in a best of 5 in a single elimination, it is what it is. You didn't get robbed or anything like that. If you lost in a BO5, then you lost, and that's just the way it is. So moving on from the PvP talk, let's move into a little bit of PVE. We are getting background farming, and this also might be a little bit of PvP as well, but we're going to be getting the background farming change at some point. I don't know, have they said exactly when it's coming? Like I literally thought that it was coming like today.
They said Q4, I think.
Q4. Okay, so maybe in my head I was just super excited that it was just going to be coming tomorrow, but from the way that they explain it, right, it's going to be very much like Dislight was, and this was actually one of the biggest things that I saw when I started playing Dislight. I was like, this is amazing. I can just put hunts on auto, and then I can literally go do anything else, because let's be real, when it's like auto hunt day, you just do hunts. That hunt buff day, it's just hunts. You can't manage your inventory, you can't refresh shop. Well, I would always say, you know what, I don't even care if I can't do PvP, I can't do another thing, anything. I just want to manage like my inventory. I want to clean up my stuff. I want to just maybe listen to the sweet music player that they put in. I want to do anything other than watching my team do Wyvern. Now, I know that Tristan, that is his fetish, and there's nothing that he likes more than to just watch hunt teams do their thing. But with this being in the background, what do you think that this is going to allow people to free up? Do you think that this is going to make a really big drastic change? I know that a lot of people don't feel like they have the time necessarily to do things like hell raid, regular raid. There's no excuse now, right, Tristan? If you're doing hunts in the background and it frees you up for raids, like, there's no excuse, right?
Yeah, I mean, what a blessing for streamers. Streaming is the freest form of advertisement these kind of games have, and Smilegate had to step up and notice that whenever there was a hunt buff weekend, especially an extended one that lasted multiple days, nobody streamed E7. Everybody streamed other games and ran their hunt buffs in the background. So suddenly that changes. RTA players can play RTA again while their hunt buff is going on in the background. So it'll bring the game out of hiding during buff events, which is nice. It's going to be a rewind back to 2019 where every other stove complaint is there's not enough energy in the game. I don't have enough stamina to do anything because everybody's blowing it all in hunts. I am curious and think that you'll even be able to run double hunts. You can set your auto team running on Wyvern, and then you can go in and manual your Banshee. And by manual, I mean still hit auto. You just can't use your pets to repeat.
So it'll be like pre pet snacks days.
Oh yeah. I think like 40 stamina every minute and a half gone from your account. You're it's gonna bleed people dry.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that's just gonna be oh my god. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. Oh, can you imagine that on hunt buff day 2? Like I think that
it
like
just turns every day into hunt buff day.
It does. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, how hard people will go on during hunt buff if you can auto Wyvern in the background and then manual Banshee 13, and you are just slamming through both of those. Like, I would actually, if you had like sub 1 minute runs on both of those and you just ran for 24 hours, somebody in the comment section math that out to tell me how much stamina you could blow through in 24 hours, and then put a number on that. Like, put a price tag next to how much double hunts on hunt buff sub 1 minute would be, because I think I want to do that. Yeah, and then I'll make the video minus $2,000. This is what I got from double hunt buff. Oh, that's gonna be rough.
If just whatever you spend on a hunt buff, you could just double it.
It'll be roughly 5 to 5.5 million gold every hour.
Wow. 720 leaves, however much that costs. That's that's quite a bit. Yeah, that is that'll be interesting. But
cue the complaints from the people who accidentally forgot to uncheck the use all available resources and they set the background thing to go on, and then they got home from work and they have 2 sky stones left.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a bunch of fun stove posts.
Are we gonna have to, like, for the background stuff? Are we gonna have to like restart it every 30 runs?
Yes.
Or is it just gonna go infinite?
Yeah, you'll have to restart it. If it's like the way Dislight was, then yeah, you'll have to restart it. It'll just have like a little box, right? That'll be like, oh well, you've done 30 out of 30 runs, and then you just go in, you restart it, you do your thing. Although now, I'll be real, with them increasing the capacity for inventory up to 700, I'm not even gonna have to pay attention to it that much, which will be nice. But yeah, I think that it was like something really, really needed, right? Because like Tristan was saying, when it comes to being a streamer, like you can stream hunt buff, but it just becomes just chatting with hunt buff in the background, or you're playing something else with hunt buff in the top left corner, or something along those lines. Whereas, like, let's be real, when it comes to like streaming Epic 7, like the vast majority of people want to see you playing RTA, people talking about RTA, stuff like that. right? They do kind of want to see something more than just Wyvern, which is literally what they're doing as well. So I think having that in the background, being able to have that in the background, being able to do Hell Raid, regular raid, RTA, whatever other daily stuff that you have is just a huge blessing. And I actually be interested to see like more games in the future doing this kind of thing. Now, a lot of people were disappointed that it wasn't just like hardcore straight offline farming, which in my opinion, I really don't like that, because it doesn't feel like I'm playing a game at that point. Now, some people can complain, they'll be like, well, you know, farming gear isn't a game either, but I feel like if you have full offline farming, then that feels too much like, oh, you know, at that point just go play AFK Arena or like one of the idle games or something like that. So I do think that this is a good mix of both. And to Tristan's point, I do think that we are going to see a lot more people complaining about stamina, because they are going to be able to just put that on in the background and then burn through hunts, and then they're going to be like, well, I just don't have enough stamina anymore. Why can't I just farm this 24/7 in the background? Feels bad, man.
If one of the points of this is to get the advertisement, to get more people streaming, to avoid loss of attention during hunt buffs, why would you do offline hunting and basically completely embrace people being able to play other games instead of Epic 7 while it's running in the background? That would be really counterproductive. And idle games don't last. I mean, they last, but they aren't as successful as games that keep you in the game.
Right. I mean, because that's what every game wants you to do. They want you to be in their game. Even games that respect your time and stuff like that. You know, when I played like Final Fantasy 14 and stuff like that, you didn't have to be in the game, but they still wanted you in the game. And I think that's going to be every game, right? And I think that even though like it's not your primary thing anymore, like literally just sitting there watching Wyvern, which actually I think would cause more burnout for a lot of players than anything else, right? This way you can put Wyvern on and you can go do the stuff that you want to do, that's, you know, just not watching Wyvern, right?
This has a real benefit for players that nobody's really talking about too, is the casual player, or the person who finds themselves suddenly with not as much time as they used to have. They don't fall behind. There's so much to do in Epic 7. Even just doing your dailies, though, like what we would consider the bare minimum to be active. You know, bang out your guild wars, go collect your hoochie shop, burn through all your stamina, just get your daily stuff done. Even that can take up to an hour of time, and it lets you multitask that. Your stamina can be burning away in the background on your hunt buffs while you're drilling the side story or finishing out your hell raid or doing your labyrinth. So it lets you be able to reduce the amount of time you're required to spend in Epic 7 without falling behind. And I think that's a nice feature for people who suddenly find their life has changed a little bit and they can't dedicate the time to the game they used to, and they feel they're just falling behind because of it.
Right. And I think that the casual player in general is somebody that we don't talk that much about. And, you know, yeah, being able to multitask that stuff is very beneficial for that person. Mace, as an RTA player, being able to farm in the background while doing RTA on a scale of 1 to 10, how fantastic is that?
11.
11, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
no, I agree.
I work, and so it's like it pisses me off when there's hunt buff days, because you feel obligated to farm the whole time, right?
Yep.
Or you know, you're comparatively like not using your resources as efficiently as other players. So if you're gonna like put anything into the game, it makes you want to maximize your hunt buff first, right, before you do any other farming. And they always do hunt buff on the weekend, which is like that's my one time I can usually sit down and actually queue. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, no, same. Like, one of the big things for me is that, like, you know, I still need to catch up on like my I need to catch up on a lot of my speed gear, and because I've been farming Banshee for a couple of years, and so it's like mistakes. Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a mistake because, I mean, even though I have a 321 ran, you'll never catch me cleaving. Turn 2 for life, but like the big thing for me is that, you know, it is, do I climb or do I farm? You know, you can't do both. So I think now, with being able to do both at the same time, I don't really have an excuse to not queue up while I'm farming in the background. And I think that is going to be really good for a lot of the RTA players. And I also think too that, you know, from a Smilegate perspective, I think this is great for them. I think that they were looking at it and they're like, man, we are literally just leaving money on the table by not letting them farm hunts and use all of their stamina so that they buy more leaf packs, so that they burn through all of their sky stones. Because, I mean, let's be real, at the end of the day, Smilegate's a company, so a lot of the quality of life, if they can squeeze some money out and get you to buy more burning passion packs, because, well, now you can farm in the background, yeah, they're going to. And I think that, you know, was definitely something that they were going to do in general, right? You know,
you think that this will increase average spending, and if so, how much?
I don't know that it is going to increase too much. I think that the people who were spending were already going to spend. I think that your top end players will probably spend more now that they can you know, farm and RTA at the same time. But I don't think that this is going to increase the overall revenue from the average player. I think that it'll soak a little bit more money out of your mid to top tier spender, but I don't think when it comes to like your average player that they're going to go too crazy ham, unless they literally just put in you know, daily burning passion every single day.
Some games have that, I think, right?
They do, yeah. No, I've played games where you literally just have the daily stamina pack every single day. And I actually, like, when they first came out with Burning Passion a long time ago, I was like, if they ever put this in the game, if they ever put this in the game, like, and I can get this every day, yeah, I'll definitely I'll definitely buy this every single day. Like, yeah, I would just feel obligated to, almost. Like, that's just the way it is, you know. So we'll see in the future. I mean, obviously once they roll it out, they'll start tweaking things, and like if people want more stamina, if they complain about more stamina, I could see more leaf packs creeping in, you know, stuff like that. And you know, if there's the demand for it there, then, you know, it is what it is. A cost of a cup of coffee every day. Yeah, I mean, realistically, like, you know, and this is just my opinion on this, and this is how I've always felt like about, you know, gacha games in general. Like, if you're playing the game for even if you're just farming, right? Because people's depiction of what playing the game is are going to be different, right? But if you're getting like 8 hours of whatever out of the game a day, which, I mean, if you're super burning through, you know, hunts really fast, you're not going to get that. Outside of RTA, like, if I could pay $3 a day and play this game for, like, you know, 5-6 hours, like, that seems like a good value to me. Like, it just is, right? What other game can you pay you know, $3 and get like 5 or 6 hours of RTA or whatever value a day? You know, I mean, some MMOs, right? But it is what it is, you know. That was kind of a weird tangent, right?
The packs recently.
Yeah, they have been putting out a lot more packs, and then they've been like refreshing a lot of the packs, although I feel like some of their packs are like really off the like weird. I'm like, you know, when they put in things like, hey, here's a free 5-star, I feel like they're kind of like missing the point, because like in this game, 5 stars, like, actual characters are so easy to get that it's not really that big of a deal. I feel like the gear packs are infinitely more value than like any 5-star, even a 5-star selector sometimes, because you got to figure like the people that are super vested in the game, chances are they've already got those characters, right? So it doesn't really
I think
particularly
people
matter.
get that if they're imprint fishing, but
Yeah.
the value of packs is wildly different, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like you have to be very careful if you're going to spend money about what you get, because some things are horrible value compared to others.
Yeah.
Like they have like the friggin' Stigma pack or something.
Oh god, yeah. No, I remember when they first put out the Stigma pack, and I was like, who buys this? Yeah, like
Yeah.
even a whale would, chances are they would be like, oh well, I'm literally just going to buy.
You have infinite Stigma
yeah.
if you're a whale, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they're like, well, why would I buy this when I could just literally buy a, just raw sky stones? Like raw sky stones are going to be more value than a Stigma pack with some Stigma and like a couple penguins and some sky stones. Like, yeah, who asked for that? Yeah.
I'm telling you, I will lay good money on it. I'm calling the shot now. Before the year's out, we're going to see an additional Burning Passion pack, a third tier of it, or we're going to see the ability to buy it twice instead of once each. And we're going to see a revamp to the leaf packs. I think people really have no idea what this is going to do to complaints about lack of energy. I mean,
I know.
About gold, and then it was Mola, and what do they do to address that? Here's a gold pack. Here's Mola packs. Here's more gold in other packs. Here's other ways to make gold. Here's a way to reset your abyss every day to get gold. Here's more Mola from your daily things. They would always find ways to sneak them in. We'll add Mola to this growth pack when you pull a 5-star.
Yep.
Lots of additional ways to purchase Mola. The constant outcry is going to be, hey, I'm out of stamina because I've been duped into doing these background hunts, and I don't get anything because I don't know how to roll gear, and I never have stamina. So I need more stamina. It's going to be nonstop for the next several months.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the things that like I'd always bring up when people would talk about like fully offline hunts and stuff like that too, right? I'm like you know that you're just gonna run out of stamina in like 30 minutes, right? And then you are going to complain that you don't have enough stamina, and then it's just gonna shift from, well, why do we even have to use stamina? Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze real quick. Man, you ever have like those sneezes where like you can feel it coming and you're like, hold on. Dang. All right, I'm gonna have to edit that out. Sorry. I'm not gonna edit that out at all. But mostly because I'm lazy. But no, like it's gonna end up being that if it was full background, people would run out of stamina, and then they're gonna be like, well, why do I have to even have to use stamina? And if Smilegate's like, well, here's some more Burning Passion packs, here's some more stamina packs, then everybody's gonna be like, well, Smilegate, why are you being so greedy? Just give us more stamina for free. And then it comes to the point where it's like they are going to do a little bit of extra stamina, that probably, but then they are going to have to do the stamina packs. And if you're thinking that you can just farm 24/7 without like putting anything into the game, well, I mean, that's just not realistic. Like, I don't think that should be how it is at all. You're still playing the game, even if like you're just farming. Like, there's got to be something that comes into it, right?
If you one-shot 24/7, I think you spend roughly like 9 to 10k skystones a day or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Easy. I mean, say what you want about Smilegate, but they are smart when it comes to marketing. They won't just say, "Oh, you need more stamina? Here, we'll sell it to you."
Yeah.
They will sneak in bonus stamina. Hey, we hear you, and we're increasing the daily rock paper scissors reward from 50 per tick to 75 per tick, or per 100 per tick. Look, we're doubling the stamina you get from this. And we're also going to increase the quantity of leaves in the leaf pack and add 2 more leaf packs. And we're going to let you buy the Burning Passion pack twice. That's a great value, right? and everybody's gonna be like, more free stamina. This is great. And you know what? The whales can buy the additional stuff too, and the whales will.
Oh yeah, yeah, no,
There's
100%.
always a good balance. I mean, look at the mola. Everybody, we need more mola. We need more mola, and immediately they come out with better and more purchasable mola packs. But they also add about 7 to 8 mola per month to your free to play pool.
And they
Right.
gave like 100 to everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean,
they're
I
good at
still,
balancing it.
I still hate Molagoras. I think that like Molagoras are what holds people back from using more 4-stars, right? Because like even though we have a lot more Molagoras, I mean, I'm sitting on a ton of extra Molagoras just because I haven't built certain things. I still think that that is like the thing holding people back from either catching up to other people or utilizing any 4-stars. Grace of Growth is going to be kind of interesting to see, but again, that's like that's 1 unit, and it is also you know, a 3-day cooldown, right? I don't think that it's going to do as much for the game as it could, but that's a whole other thing. I actually think that, and this will probably be, was this the last topic? What was the last topic? We'll shift it anyways. Let me pull this back up real quick. Oh, go ahead.
Quick for Brandon, he's saying in chat that Fodder's holding him back. There's an utterly boring, monotonous, horrible grind you can do, Brandon, but it'll solve that problem. If you go to zone, I believe it's zone 2S, it's Level in Harbor on the normal adventure map. It doesn't work in Unrecorded History, but the normal one. And you go into the central zone. It's an exploration called Level in Harbor. And you teleport to the northern 3 modes. Each 3 node has a single slime fight in it. And then you teleport to the exit and you exit. It takes 2 stamina to go into it because it's an exploration, and it drops anywhere from 1 to 3 fodder units. So it averages out to, if you drop 200 stamina into that, which takes about 30 minutes of boring clicking with everything on auto, you start to get used to the rhythm of it and you move through it pretty quickly. You get about 100 to 150 fodder units for about 30 minutes of monotonous, boring grind. I used to do it when I go to the bathroom. It'll solve your fodder issues pretty much.
Yeah, it definitely helps out. It's also good when you're doing when we have AP buff as well, because you do get, if you run through it, you do get a certain amount of AP. And then I know a lot of people were using it for like friendship farm and a lot of other stuff like that. Yeah, or just buy Potion of Ascension. Yeah, just buy Potion of Ascension, and then that just skips the whole fodder thing in general. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can also use friendship pools as well. I think a lot of people forget that that's even a thing. I think that the friendship bookmarks are like a complete like people forget that those even exist. So the last topic was the 4th anniversary, and that we're you know, we're coming up on the 4th anniversary, but I think that I want to switch and talk a little bit about balanced units that have been being released, right? I think this will be a good last topic. You know, we're coming up on an hour, so let's not try to talk too long, because I know you guys aren't Valky and Ace trainers, so you guys don't want to, you know, people talk for like 7 hours, even though we could. But Mace, what is your take on them releasing what people consider to be underpowered, underwhelming units that need absolute buffs to even be remotely usable, and are probably the worst, most useless units that have ever been put out into the game, which is literally everything after Hua-Young?
It's just like this cycle that we keep going through. They release overpowered units that, you know, completely change the meta. People whine, and then they scale it back, and they do this for a while, and maybe people forget, and then they release another seal release again. as somebody that spends on the game, I'm getting pretty sick of pulling these units that I can't play with.
Like in terms of balanced units that you can't play with, or what?
Yeah, like they're not really viable.
Okay.
If you want to win, like you can play with them, but you'll probably lose. Like you're not favored anymore. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay.
There's
Tristan?
a lot to ask, but they need to have some synergy with existing units. Like, yeah, Pavel is pretty garbage, but if you can work him into a team with this unit, he's very, very good. For example, Summertime Assaria, when she came out, absolute utter garbage unit until she got some initiators and people started realizing, holy smokes, I can auto my way to Masters, I can cleave my way to Emperor with this unit as long as I draft some initiators. Then people figured her out eventually, and she's less common, but still, they need to do some things like that instead of having all these units be kind of a reverse power creep of what we already have. It's like, yeah, you know what, this unit is good like Hui Young, but not quite as good as Hui Young. Well, what's the point of that unit then?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, one of the things with, see, here's my thing, right? Is a lot of people, they claim that they want balance. They want everything to be balanced, but we've already come to the pretty much realization that let's be real, Smilegate's never going to nerf anything unless they gets a buff and a balance patch, which is just an indirect nerf, right? Like they were going to do to Valen, which they switched back, which then turned him into like a green Hua Young. I think that with them releasing too many OP characters, Hua Young, C. Lilius, AOL, stuff along that lines, everybody complained about it, right? Because even though they like it when they have it, they don't want to fight against it. And I feel like a lot of people want another Hua Young to answer Hua Youngs, but then they completely forget that they have to fight against that new one. And so if Smilegate puts out another OP character, well, at some point you're going to have to fight against that OP character, and then you're going to complain about that, OP character. So I feel like they're going like this giga safe route. And I feel like they've done this quite a few times in the past as well. They'll, buff something through the roof, and they're like, "Oh, wait, hold on. We should bring it back a notch. We should slow down. We should chill." And then everybody kind of gets into this like stagnant spot. And then it's like every unit that comes out, you're right. It's like, well, why would I use this unit over insert every other unit? But as a spender, especially as a streamer and or content creator, I actually feel like we've got it worst as content creators because, well, you feel like you have to pull said unit because, well, I mean, I need to make some content on it, right? If I don't have
growth helps with that at least.
that it absolutely does, yeah. But I mean, before that, right? Like we'd have to invest in the unit, and like I remember when Valen first came out, I like pulled Valen, I put Molas into him, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I just did this. Like this is so worthless. Like this is not even worth it. But like, like for the normal player though, I don't feel like you have to pull. Like you didn't have to pull Sharoon. You didn't have to pull Yulha. Like contrary to popular belief, you really don't have to pull Ed or Roy. I understand that they're a limited collab character, but unlike what Facebook and Reddit and Discord and YouTubers and streamers tell you, you don't have to pull limited characters. Like,
well, it
yeah,
depends on what your goal of the game is, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you're a collector, then yes, you do. But like, I feel like if you're just a casual player, I feel like there's a little.
Yeah, if you're
bit...
a casual player, you don't honestly need to pull anything. You can just whatever the game gives you, you just play with.
Yeah, I feel like there's this heavy push for people to have to get the newest unit, and I don't think that that's always like really the best way. I think that when they put out like a balanced skippable unit, like it's actually not a bad thing because it gives like your normal average player time to continue to build their core meta units, right? If a unit's like a just a hard side grade, like I remember when Blood Moon Haste first came out, and everybody is just like, but why would I pull this unit? Like, it just counters RB, like it's not really that good. And it's like, well, then just use this time to MOLA one of your other core units, like, you know, use those resources to build up your core team. Like, you know, I didn't have ML Sirmia for a long time, for a while after she came out. And even though she was really good when she first came out, she countered a lot of stuff. I wasn't like, oh, well, I can't win because I don't have this unit. And I think that them releasing more kind of like maybe underwhelming or balanced units isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I don't feel like I have to have this in order to win. There's so many gacha games where if you are not immediately pulling and leveling the newest character, you just can't win. And usually like those type of power creep games, they burn out really fast, because you just get to a point where you're like, you know what, I just want to play with the units I have. Like, can you please stop introducing a new Hua Young every 2 weeks? And I'll be real, like, other people may complain about like the dead period that we had where they didn't release any new ML5s. I was perfectly fine with it. You know why? Because I wasn't like, oh my god, I have to pull this new unit, I have to pull Pavel, I have to pull, you know, whatever new ML5 comes out. Every couple of weeks there's a new unit that I have to pull. I can just be like, you know what, I can just chill, man. I could just take a nap. Like, I am epic Chilean right now. I'm going to use my resources to farm gear. I don't have to have the newest gear unit, because if you're a mid-range spender, or you are you know, an average player, like, you kind of have to, at some point you have to go, do I use my sky stones to refresh gear, or do I use my sky stones to pull units, right? And if you're not a spender, like, you can only do one or the other. And so I see a lot of free-to-plays that are complaining about gear, where it's like, well, just use your sky stones to refresh, and they're like, well, but then I won't be able to get a new character, and if a new Hua Young comes out, then I'm even further behind. So I actually think that, you know, skippable characters aren't necessarily a bad thing. I honestly would prefer, in my opinion, I would like more impactful heroes to come out, but I would like the time between them to be a bit longer. Like, if you had one new ML5 and one new RGB a month, but that unit was good, I think that would be a bit better of a schedule. Maybe like an ML5 every other month and like an RGB once a month.
Well, I think their old schedule for MLs was better, but they wanted to make more money, so they adjusted it. And I think just in general with a lot of these units, the problem is that they don't have really a job to do, right? They don't fit into a particular niche. Like, you can look at Roy, like, he does damage, and, you know, you can build a lot of damage on him, and then you can boost him with A-Lots or whatever type of character like that. But we already have a bunch of units in the game that essentially do that exact same job.
Yeah.
So what Smilegate needs to do with these units is they need to figure out a particular niche, right, where they can be picked. And that's tough to do. And they don't have to always be RTA units, right? They could be a unit that might answer a particularly common defense in Arena, right? And make it easier for people who are doing the Legend Rush, right, to quickly beat those teams. But the units have to have, like, a purpose to them. So when they release these units that just feel like their kit isn't unique, or they don't do anything that other units don't do, it feels really bad, I guess, to pull them.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. Yeah, 100%. I do think that it does feel a little bit bad, because I mean, even for me personally, right? There's a lot of units that I just pull, and then I like level it for content, and then I just never use it again. Like, chances are, I mean, Roy doesn't fit my playstyle, so I'm gonna use him to make a video on the current bug that he has with his S3, and then I'm probably never gonna use him again. I was super disappointed in Ed. You know, the way that Ed came out, he was touted as, like, you know, being able to, like, you know, kind of counter the Ran pay opens, not so much. And just kind of fell flat. And that's one of the reasons too I hate limited units, right? Because I feel like limited units have this expectation around them, and it either has to be the most broken thing like SSB when she first came out, or again it's completely useless. And I think that when you put out too many units, you have that problem, right? Because
they've done well with some of the units they've released. Like, I think Arya was actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
She is a unit that, like, every so often, like, she's amazing, right? But those games are few and far between, and that's fine. But she has, like, a very specific niche where she can do really well.
Yep.
And I think if Ed was a unit that was able to answer Ran a little bit better, that would have been really interesting, because it would have shifted the meta a teeny bit, and it would have shaken things up a tad. But unfortunately, he kind of fell flat. Right.
No, for sure.
So I'm going to go a little bit of a tear on this. Smilegate's decided the hill to die on is no nerfs, and that's fine. That's the way they want to run their business. That's the way they want to run their business. But that only leaves two avenues for balancing, and that is buffing units who aren't quite making it, and changing in-game mechanics, the rotating frenzy stuff that's being used in RTA, for example, rotating bans on specific units, unique game mechanics like Ancient Inheritance or the Advent events, things like that. And that gacha games are driven by hype, and there's nothing that generates more hype than a new unit. That's what everybody talks about. People are like, oh, yay, background battles. Oh, a brand new Hall of Trials. Ooh, level 4 expeditions. None of that gets people super excited. Full Metal Alchemist coming to Banner. Pull Rem from your favorite collab. Brand new Red-Headed Samurai. This is what gets people excited about stuff. And nothing is worse for killing hype then the unit gets pulled, the unit gets tested, and it's a dud, and within 48 hours, its in-game rating is dropped from 3.8 to 2.1, and people are trash-talking it, save your bookmarks, just build this other unit instead. I guess we wait 2 to 3 more weeks for something else to get excited about. I would rather them make the units better than what's currently out there. And I'm not saying drop us, Hui Young level monstrosities. They don't have to be great disasters for units, but they need to be better than what's out there. And hey, you don't like power creep? That's too bad. We're not nerfing, so our only option is to power creep. And then if a unit gets completely crept off of the board and isn't used anymore, we address that with buffs. Nobody was using Luna, so they buffed her. Nobody was using Sigrid even in W13, so they gave her a buff that made her really viable in W13. Look at Green Arm, and how many people used Green Arm 8 months ago in anything other than maybe the occasional Dizzy Garmin Guild War fight? It's not a good model to be like, here's a new banner, get all excited, now get very disappointed and feel held hostage because if you don't pull this trash tier unit, you aren't going to be able to use it, or you aren't going to be able to enjoy it when they eventually buff it down the road. And when they eventually buff it down the road, that's good hype, that's great content, people get excited about the unit, but it's zero profit for Smilegate because there's no banner along with that buff. Right. It behooves them to have the banner, make it hyped, and this goes doubly so for limited, and this goes triply so for collabs. So many people come for the collab. Hey, I've never heard of Epic 7 before, but I love FMA, and when I was Googling it at 3 a.m, I saw Epic 7's name beside FMA, so I checked out the game, and I'm all excited to pull my favorite unit, and wow, everybody's trash talking it. It's terrible. Well, forget this game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And I also think too, when it comes to like power creep, right? You never want your favorite character to be power crept off of the board, but I think that is just a inevitability, right, when it comes to gacha games and anything in general, with like, you know, new characters being released like nonstop. To your point with where things don't have to be a Hua Young level, I almost disagree, because it's the yardstick, right? It's like Arby was back in the day. Even if, like, let's say a new unit comes out and it's better than every other warrior, but it's not better than Hua Young, people are still going to call it trash because it's not better than Hua Young. Even if it displaces, you know, 90% of other warriors, and it's super viable, I think that in general the mob mentality will be, well, why would I use this when I can just use Hua Young? And I actually think that it's going to get even worse now that literally everybody will have Hua Young after the selector. I think that every single target damage unit that comes out from here until a new unit better than Hua Young comes out is going to be hit with that yardstick of, well, yeah, but why wouldn't I just one shot it with Hua Young? This is the problem with this is one of the problems with ML Pavel right now, is I've already seen people, they're like, well, this ML Pavel only does 20,000 damage to a proof A Ravi. Like, that's not even as much as Hua Young could do. And I'm like, first off, there's no Hua Young that's gonna kill one shot a properly geared proof of valor APOC Ravi, unless it's vigor, grit, gab, pushed base speed. So this is, I think, one of the really big problems that you have in general with games like this. And then people want balance, and then when you put out a balanced character, you run into issues where the balanced character is continuously benchmarked by a character that absolutely isn't balanced. And, you know, with, like you be saying, their hill to die on is no nerfs, which I kind of understand, right? Because, I mean, look at the outcry for the Arya nerfs, like, and people demanding like their entire account worth of spending back over some art. Can you imagine if they nerfed Hua Young? Imagine if they gave us the selector and then immediately nerfed Hua Young afterwards. Like, do you know how many there would be trucks everywhere around the Smilegate headquarters. So I don't necessarily think that they can do gradual power creep, because until they power creep that disaster unit, you'll still have people complain about that disaster unit and how every other unit is like an absolute must not pull.
People say they want balance, but people don't want balance. When they say they want balance, what they're actually saying is, I want playability. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to use units that I want to use, and that will never happen if they're releasing new units that are fish swimming with sharks.
Yeah. No, I agree.
If I could say two sentences to Smilegate and have them listen to it, I would say balance patches are for fixing units that have been power crept out of the game, not for fixing units you just released that aren't good enough for the game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the amount of like just completely forgotten units that don't get buffs over like things that like just came out not too long ago. Like, yeah, they should definitely, when it comes to like balance patches, first off, I think that they should do balance patches more often. I don't think anybody is going to disagree that like that more balance patches would be bad. Like, I feel like the progression of like EEs, balance patches, like, first off, the last set of EEs, like, who asked for any of those? That was the weirdest triple set of EEs that I think that I've seen in a long time. But like, I really think that they do need to update their amount of balance patches that they put out, and units. And I think that they need to like look at Dilibet as the absolute gold standard of buffs that they have ever done, because Dilibet, when it comes to like niche characters, right, units that really excel at what it is that they're supposed to do, I think Dilibet is phenomenal. Dilibet does not get drafted. I think the other thing too is that a lot of people want a Ravi. A Ravi can be drafted into every play style, in every team. There's rarely ever a time where if you're not sure what to slam in your draft, that slamming a Ravi is a bad idea. Like I don't like, oh, cleave, yeah, a Ravi anchor. Aggro, yeah, throw a Ravi in there. Standard, yeah, slap a Ravi in there. Although sometimes standard versus standard a Ravi is not the best option, but still not a bad option. So a lot of people want that, but like Dilibet, when it comes to the things that Dilibet counters, she's great at it. You slam a Dilibet and the Ran, the Payra, neither one of them can push like certain buttons or else they just lose. Dilibet is not a unit that you can draft into every draft, but in the drafts where Dilibet goes into, she is one of the best units that you can use in that situation. And I think that they need to make more characters like that. I think that they need to go to more of like a rock, paper, scissors. I enjoy hard counters to certain things, right? And
I think I agree with Tristan that they need to up the power level of the new units that they're releasing. Just
Agreed.
Kind of overall, like we have so many units recently that like they're just not usable, period, right?
Yeah, like
Tehu.
Yeah, exactly.
But like there's a lot of them though, right?
Right.
And not every unit needs to be an RTA unit. You can release a unit for other content, just to allow the RTA meta to be stable over time. And
you know what the problem with that though, Mace?
Units releasing. Sorry?
The problem with releasing a unit that's not RTA viable is that, and keeping the RTA meta stable. Now, I personally don't mind the RTA meta being stable, but when the meta is stable, you have all these people that complain about not stability, but staleness, right? Like that's what we've seen for a long time. That's what it is now,
and they release a bunch of bad units that you can't draft.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that's my point. Is like, so if you're going to release a unit every month, right? Instead of releasing 3 units over 3 months that are all trash, have 1 or 2 of those units impact the RTA meta, and have the third one, impact, like make it an Abyss unit or an Expo unit or something, but make it be good at that job and usable. That way the meta in RTA isn't constantly changing, but you're at least getting something. They just need to kind of turn it up by like 20 or 30%, I guess. It seems like they're being too cautious right now.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems that Smilegate has, is that they are either too aggressive or too cautious. They burn themselves by being too aggressive, and then instead of just going like, okay, well, let's just turn it down by 1 notch, they go, okay, we're done. The next like handful of units are going to be, completely useless. Yeah. Or they just completely miss the mark with like Tehu, who was touted as like the Hua Young answer, but didn't really answer anything. Yeah,
and even what I just said in chat, there's a whole bunch of functional units, but they're just not as good as what's already out there, so they don't get used, with the implication that we'll release it safe and then buff it later to where it needs to be, and that is a very anti-hype way to run releases.
Yeah.
So what if a unit's a brand new unit is just a direct upgrade to Hui Young? That's great. Hui Young doesn't get used as often. We get to see a brand new unit with new animation. Maybe it has slightly different synergies, and then 5 or 6 months down the road, they can do a balance patch on Hui Young to give her a slightly different job and reintroduce her into the meta. That keeps the hype rolling. We're excited about the new Hui Young unit. We're happy that the redhead isn't killing us every single match.
Right.
That's great. Who cares if it's a better a Ravi? I would love for an RTA match to happen where I didn't have to hear that my dead comrades were waiting for me. Bring her back 6 months from now with a slightly different job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think though that is kind of like the weird thing, and like I feel like a lot of different gacha games are different, right? Like you'll have the gacha games that are just extreme power creep. Every new unit is like the meta unit, like even if it's just like every other one. And then yeah, you've got us where I feel like they could just spend a lot more money on a balanced team, right? Like a real balanced team. I think that like they need to have like a direction of where they're going. Like I actually wouldn't mind like Mace's idea, have like three units, right? And this way, you know, like this one is for RTA, this one is for like Guild Wars Arena, and then the last one is like PVE, and just go, this is our paradigm here. You know, every 3 months we're going to introduce one of each of these, and then just kind of go with that. That way too, like, you know, kind of what you're expecting. You know, I feel like too sometimes with units like was this Sage Vivian, where the unit just is like, oh well, this doesn't work against bosses or whatever. I feel like that kind of throws people off too, because you know, not everybody is going to pull a unit for PvP. I do think that, you know, sometimes a unit being viable for PvE, like Abyss and stuff like that, just go, hey, you know what, this unit is made for RT, or this unit's made for RTA, this unit's made for Hell Raid and Abyss and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that would be a perfect alternative, but right now it just seems like they kind of throw things at the wall until like they make another disaster, and then they go, oh, we should probably not do that, and then they release 2 more disasters, and then they, you know, go back into hiding.
It's about the frequency of it, right? Like they need to change the meta, but there's a good frequency in how frequently, right? That's repetitive, but
Yeah.
There's a certain frequency that I think would be a happy medium. And when they were releasing the disasters, like that was too much too fast.
Oh yeah.
But then you get these reverse periods where the meta doesn't change for too long, and that's not good. So I think that's what they need to focus on, is less like balancing specific units and more how often does the meta change.
Do you think that they were hesitant to put anything meta shifting out because of E7 World Cup?
Oh,
I know
yeah,
that's
they put everything on hold.
Yeah.
For that, which
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like if they were doing like E7 World Cup mode, right, they could do it like how they did, and they might do this in the future, right, with the ability to prevent like new units coming into like a certain mode. Like you can go, okay, here's the E7 World Cup prelims and everything like that. Every unit from this day forward is not allowed in Epic 7 World Cup.
I think they didn't want to do that because they wanted it to be representative of the game other people were playing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that goes into the problem of like them taking, you know, 2 months to run Epic 7 World Cup then.
Yeah.
You know,
because
especially if you're putting out a lot of
and
stuff.
drafting units and stuff like that, if it's a totally different meta, people aren't going to be able to relate to it as well.
Right. Right. Yeah, you really don't have that problem too much in like other competitive games, right? Like if you're like talking League of Legends or like Dota or something along those lines, like they don't get units like nearly as fast as everybody else does, like as we do, right? So like you don't really have that problem. So yeah, I guess that would be. Although I mean, I guess like to be fair, like if they just made it a little bit faster and restricted the new units, that might not necessarily be the worst thing, but yeah, I do feel like that they do need to kind of figure something out with like the direction, because right now it just kind of seems like a boat without a sail, and they're just kind of releasing stuff.
I mean, there's always ways to shake it up. Top 5 units drafted in last year's World Cup can't be drafted in next year's World Cup. Heck, you could do an RTA mode like that. Put a shop on it, 2-week-long RTA mode. Whatever top 10 units were drafted, they're pre-banned for the next time around. But it really comes down to them just needing to turn the power up a notch or two, to not release disappointing units. and then deal with the fallout later. I don't think the World Cup's why we're releasing low-level power level units. I think it's because the community tried to burn Smilegate to the ground because they released overpowered units. From Politis to AOL moving forward, people were making 7 Great Disaster memes, they were renting protest trucks, and it was all about the same thing. These units are so overpowered that if you don't have them, you can't play the game. And that was 90% of our feedback to Smilegate. Stop dropping monsters on us. And Smilegate loves to overreact to these kind of things. And
that's true.
They went from what should have been from a 9 down to a 6. They went from a 9 down to a 4. Everything is, this unit would have been great 3 seasons ago, 3 metas ago. This is a beautiful 2020 power level unit. That just results in everybody being disappointed about the banner and trash talking the unit until it eventually gets a buff and people are upset because they didn't pull for it. So FOMO is not a way to generate hype.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you there. But with that said, boys, it's been about an hour and a half, so we're gonna wrap this one up. We had a lot of good stuff here. Leading out, anything that you'd like to say, Mace?
No, thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to the rest of your tournament. I think it's really great. If you guys haven't checked out Mace, his information will be down in the description of the video. But Mace, tell everybody where they can find you for those people who don't know how to read.
I have a YouTube channel, Mace1370 Gaming.
All right, fantastic. And Tristan, any closing words?
If you're not getting your E7 content from Twitch TV/The Real Shotgun Shogun, you're missing out, and it's probably why your girlfriend's thinking about leaving you.
That's true, Tristan. 100%. Yeah, agreed. Where can they? Where can the people who can't read find you?
The easiest way is just go to YouTube and search TristenWulf space whatever the heck it is PVE related you're wanting to do. TristenWulf W13.
Fair enough. And even Shotgun Shogun approved, because anytime that I have a question about Ancient Inheritance or anything like that PVE related, I too go to TristenWulf. And that's why my imaginary girlfriend hasn't left me, because I am a TristenWulf enjoyer. But hey, thanks the both of you guys for coming out. A lot of good conversations. We went a lot of off talk there and did some peepo talking, but always good times. Thanks both of you guys for coming out. And you know what, YouTube, if you guys have any requests on who you'd like to see in the future on the Infinite Library, let me know in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys later. Take it easy, homies. Peace out.